the story of the grandmother who lived for more than 200 years. They say that in a distant village, hidden deep among forests and high mountains, there once lived a grandmother whom everyone simply called Old Akulina. Nobody knew exactly how old she was, but the elders would whisper, "She was already here long before my own grandparents were even born." According to local legends, the grandmother was born at the beginning of the 19th century. But 200 years passed, and she was still alive. Her face was lined with deep wrinkles, yet her eyes glowed with a strange fire, not the dim light of old age, but the sharp wisdom of someone who had seen the secrets of the world. Whispers of her longevity. The old people said Akulina had lived through wars, revolutions, and countless rulers. She spoke of the time when soldiers in Napoleon's uniforms marched past her village, and later when Soviet troops passed the same road during the Great Patriotic War. Children often gathered around her, eager to hear her tales. She knew more songs, legends, and spells than anyone else alive. It was as if her memory carried the story of all humanity. The secret of her long life. Some claimed she made a pact with a forest spirit. Others swore she had herbs and potions that could stop time itself. But there was another story, the strangest of them all. When she was young, she saved a wandering traveler. He turned out not to be a man, but the keeper of time. Grateful, he gave her the gift of life beyond years. But he warned, "You will see more than any ordinary person." But remember, eternity is not always a gift. Sometimes it is a trial. Life among people. Despite her mysterious past, Akulina lived simply. Her little wooden house smelled of dried herbs, bread, and smoke. People came from nearby towns and faraway places, peasants, healers, even scientists. Everyone wanted to know her secret. She only smiled and answered, "My medicine is simple: silence, kindness, and respect for the earth." Trials and loneliness. But a long life is not only joy. Over the centuries, she buried her children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren. Generations came and went, while she remained. Sometimes at night, sitting by the window, she would cry softly so no one could hear. The villagers respected her, but deep down they feared her. For them, she was no longer just human, she was almost eternal. The 200th birthday. On the day she turned 200 years old, the entire village gathered at her house. No one could believe their eyes. There she sat on a bench, wrapped in her old shawl, looking almost the same as decades before. She stood up, looked at the crowd and said, "You think I am immortal? No. Each day I live as if it is my last. The only reason I am given so many dawns is because I keep no hatred in my heart. I carry only kindness and love." The last mystery. No one knows if she still lives. Some say her hut now stands empty, overgrown with nettles. Others swear they saw her in a nearby town, not long ago, walking slowly with a cane, her eyes still glowing with that eternal light. Or perhaps she returned to the forest, to the keeper of time, at last finding peace. The moral. The story of Grandmother Akulina is not only a legend about long life. It is a reminder that life is not measured by the number of years, but by the kindness and love we leave behind. The grandmother who lived for more than 200 years, Part 2. The disappearance after her 200th birthday, the villagers noticed something strange. Akulina was seen less and less often. Sometimes her window glowed with candlelight late at night. But when people came to visit, her door was locked, and no sound came from inside. One winter morning, the villagers found her house completely empty. The herbs were gone, the fire in the hearth had gone cold, and only a wooden staff leaned against the wall. No footprints led away from the hut, though the snow was fresh. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Rumors spread. Some said she had finally gone to the forest to meet the keeper of time. Others claimed she had turned into a bird, flying away at dawn. But a few villagers swore they saw her wandering the fields at night, tall and silent, her shawl glowing faintly under the moonlight. Travelers passing through the region began to tell their own stories. A shepherd claimed he met an old woman in the mountains who gave him water when he was lost. A young mother said a mysterious stranger healed her child with nothing but a touch. and a merchant insisted that on a foggy road an old woman stopped his cart, warning him of danger ahead. Moments later, the bridge he planned to cross collapsed. Every time the description was the same: the wrinkled face, the shawl, and the glowing eyes. The eternal wanderer legends say Akulina did not die, but became a wanderer of time. No longer tied to her little hut, she now roams from village to village, appearing when people need help most. She brings no riches, no miracles, only quiet guidance, a healing word, and wisdom that saves lives. Then she disappears again, leaving nothing behind except the faint smell of herbs and the echo of her voice. The prophecy before she left, some say Akulina whispered a prophecy to a child in the village. "I will walk this earth until the day people forget kindness. When greed becomes stronger than compassion and hatred burns brighter than love, then my time will finally end." The child grew old and passed the words on to his children, and they to theirs. And even today, in that distant village, parents warn their children, "If you ever meet an old woman with glowing eyes, be respectful, for she may be Akulina, the one who carries the secret of time." The legend lives on now, more than 200 years later. People still whisper her name. Some believe she is real, others say it is only a story. But late at night, when the wind howls in the forest and the moon is hidden by clouds, villagers sometimes hear soft footsteps on the snow. And if you listen closely, you might hear an old woman's voice whispering, "Be kind, be patient, for time is watching you." The grandmother who lived for more than 200 years. Part 3. Sightings in modern times. Decades passed. The old village changed. Wooden huts were replaced by concrete houses. Children no longer played by the river, but carried phones in their hands. Yet every so often, people claimed to see her. In cities far away, strange reports began to appear. In a crowded subway station, a young man said an old woman grabbed his sleeve and whispered, "Do not take this train." Minutes later, the train derailed. In a hospital ward, a nurse swore that an unknown grandmother entered, laid her hand on a dying patient's forehead, and left. By morning, the patient was breathing normally again. A woman waiting at a bus stop during a storm said an old lady warned her not to step on the road. Seconds later, a car lost control and crashed where she would have been standing. Each story had the same detail: the glowing eyes, the shawl, and the faint smell of herbs. Fear and fascination. Social media exploded with posts. Some dismissed it as superstition, others insisted it was real. Hashtags appeared. The 200-year-old grandmother and Akulina lives. Videos showed blurry figures, an old woman walking slowly through crowds, vanishing the moment someone tried to follow her. Scientists tried to explain the phenomenon as mass hysteria, while others suggested time itself might be bending around her. A stranger's encounter. One story became especially famous. A young journalist, curious about the legend, set out to find her. For months, he searched villages, libraries, and archives. One night, lost in the woods, he saw the flicker of a candlelight. There she was, small, frail, yet radiant, sitting on a fallen log. He asked her directly, "Are you Akulina, the grandmother who has lived for 2 centuries?" She looked at him, her eyes burning softly like embers. 2 centuries? Child, I have lived far longer than that. I do not count the years anymore. When he asked her secret, she only replied, "The secret is not mine. It is the world's. Time will reveal it when it must." The journalist tried to take her photo, but when he looked at the screen, it was blank. Only the grandmother who lived for more than 200 years. Part 4. The last winter years turned into decades. Cities grew taller, forests grew quieter, and people almost forgot about her. Yet somewhere the old woman still walked, helping strangers, whispering warnings, healing with a touch. But one winter night, in a small village where no one had seen her for generations, a faint glow appeared in the forest. A hunter followed the light and found a tiny wooden hut, half buried under snow. The conversation. The hunter stepped inside and asked, "Are you Akulina? Are you dying?" She smiled, her eyes still glowing softly. "No, child, I am not dying. I am simply going home." He knelt beside her. "But where is home?" She looked out the window, where the snow fell quietly. "Where time began, where time ends, I was never meant to stay this long. The final moments. The next morning, the hut was gone. Where it had stood was only untouched snow and a small patch of flowers blooming out of season. People say that was the night Akulina finally left this world. Not dead, just gone. Her soul, they believe, returned to the Keeper of Time, or perhaps became one with the wind, watching silently over those who still remember her. The legacy from then on, whenever villagers speak of her, they say, Akulina did not die, she simply walked into eternity. And even now, on quiet winter nights, if you close your eyes, you might feel a soft hand on your shoulder and hear a whisper. Be kind. Be patient. For time is watching you.